Okay, so I have the variables extracted, the variable names and the variable values. And now what I'm doing is substituting into every if statement that contains a variable name found here, the line above it. I'm having it substitute the value from that. So, see, and there we go, success. So let's just take a look, browse through here quickly, way down through. This works great. Substituting, substituting, substituting until we get to these ones where we have the two variables before. So all I need to do is another substitution looking 2 lines back into this code so that it contains both. Let's do that. Make the modification. I'm substituting into this line this time. G7. And I'm actually going to have it output the original one just in case. And I'm going back to there we go. Double substitutions. Okay, so one more modification here actually. Instead of returning nothing back here, I'm going to return the actual if statement from before. I'm pulling out the oops, guess not. I want to combine these if statements with all the other if statements so that I can come up with a list of all of them to evaluate. I'm going to copy every if statement out here, or else nothing. Now what I can do over here is say if we have something in I, let's look at what it is, otherwise let's look at what original if was. Okay, so now I have a list of the ifs with the substitutions. Let me copy this through the entire document. And now in this column, I have a list of all the ifs that are going to determine whether we have code or not. And a few of those ifs will probably be legitimate within the code. Okay, so next step is to, where is my numbering? Now I have all the ifs numbered for reference points. Okay, let's try that again. What I need to do right now is copy both the line number and the code. So I'm going to paste the values over here. And now I can sort according to line B, rather. Put all the ifs together. Okay, so now I will copy all these ifs over to my Excel project. And this can easily be done just by also a notepad file and saving in HTML, but doing it over here anyways. Do my temporary work in here. I am going to have it write out truth or false value of these expressions in a row, and then we have them lined up with our line numbers this way. Replace the if document right, throw the extra bracket in as well. And replace the brace with a closing bracket. Actually, that's going to put all of it together in one line. So let's add line break character at the end of each. These will be printing true break, false break, true break, false break. Also put a good measure here. We know we reached the end of the file and we didn't come up short for some reason. Now I could reference this whole file in my blank document, or I can just simply paste it into the script part here. And let's run it. So true, false, true, false, true, false. And we didn't make it all the way through the file. So that means that there must be instances in here where we actually have a variable name. In other words, part of it, like a real if statement that couldn't be evaluated from before, such as this one right there. What I'm going to do is just, because we're going to end up not being able to substitute this one, we're just going to have to leave this as a placeholder. We also have two more right after that, which are real pieces of code. Oh, interesting. Something I forgot to consider. That probably should be the word math instead of math1. And the reason for that, I bet you if we look at where that came from, we're going to probably see that that was a function called t. Bingo. So we ended up making two substitutions there, so we can fix that one. That was kind of a oversight. That would have also generated an error as well. And I think I saw something similar right here. Look at this. Great big honkin' mess of stuff that looks like it replaces an H. 6 or 7 lines off the bottom. So we can clean that up because that's supposed to just simply be math post. The rest of these are all fine. This is a placeholder. And there's another one with the actual variable as a placeholder. Let's see if that works. All the way to the end. So now we have actual assessed values for these. So all those evaluations done. That's about 290 of them. Now we'll be able to take this information back and work with Okay, so what I've done here now is re-alphabetized according to the code line. So this will line up with my other spreadsheet. I'm going to go back here, and I don't need any of these parts here anymore. But you know what? The idea of deleting anything before I actually realize that I needed something still is just a little too painful. Make this copy something that I can refer back to, because I have a feeling I might be doing this part a few times, basing off of this categorization part, that is. I'm just going to rename this as the base line. And then I'm not going to actually modify that document. I will instead make more sheets to refer to. So let's make a copy of this and go get a copy of the true and false assignments and stick them right here. Everything still lines up. Got all the rest in the right spot. So now I know which of these statements are true or false and which ones we'll be able to get rid of. Now, this is where things are getting tricky. I think that there's a way I can come up with identifying, each time we have an if forming, we go until we find its corresponding close statement. Okay, so I just had to take a moment to double check my sheets. Turns out I was writing in the wrong one, and now I've got everything all lined up here. And just for reference, I have highlighted with some colors here some of these first if blocks that I want to look at. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start a running counter every time that we encounter an if statement. And this does also include if b1, b2 is an if, return 1 plus 1, otherwise return e1. So now this should give us, every time we encounter a new block, we go up by 1. New if. Okay, now what I'm going to do is every time I encounter a closing brace for the if, which is just the close, I'm going to decrease the counter by 1, but not within the line it's in. I'm going to do it, previous line was a close. We'll decrease it by 1. Except for the fact that here, we won't want to do that, because the starting if increases and then it would throw a mess. So I will only need to do it if it is close and it's not an if. So if the previous line is a close, previous line, and the current line is not an if, then we return counter from E. I'm not going to keep a running counter on this one. All right, let's see if this is what I wanted. What that does is it now denotes off every time they're the same, we are within a block. And then the counter goes down and they're not the same anymore. 1 greater than 0, 2 greater than 0, 3 greater than 2. Now here, 3 greater than 3 would be the test transition at this point, and 3 greater than 2, this would be the pass. So what I'm going to do is, during these transition points, is where we see the true and the falses appearing. And if we don't actually have a value here, it will leave a blank gapped in there. So this will copy the value of true and false into each of these blocks. I think I'm going to need an and in here, because what I do want is I want to carry the true and the false forward through each of these sections. I want it to terminate. I don't want it to play the previous line for the next entry. You know what? It may just be easier to do it this way. If those two numbers are the same, E2 equals F2, then we will return the value of G2, otherwise we will return nothing. This should get rid of the ones in between. So there we go. So now what we have is groups of falses and trues that report for each of these blocks being tested. Okay, so let's return the value of that if statement, of that true and false. And we'll make this a Boolean column. There we go. So that should work through all of these. Now what we have is a group that we could call a block. Get rid of the extra coloring in these right at the moment for us. But what we need to do is go through and determine, in the case of these else's, we know that this is going to be a false statement, which means that the else will be evaluated true, and we want to use the true marker to indicate this part. So if we hit an else, then we'll invert it. Otherwise, we'll just display nothing. We'll do that for the moment. If this is an if statement, and let's pull out the value of I3, otherwise return nothing. Okay, so now what I can do is I can merge these two together, and that will give me the evaluation of the if or the else if statements. Oh, okay, so is logical. There we go. Now I can go ahead and use the value or the previous value in order to produce a running carry of how that entire block remains. So in this particular case here, you see that the first part are the false statements, and then the next part are the stuff that was related to the true. Now, again, in most of these cases, we're going to see that it's probably just 5 statements long for the if, but this whole structure will work in case there are several statements nested within these components. I don't want this. I have a feeling I could have probably made this a little bit better, but it's still easy enough to clean up. I need to figure out a way to actually note these block sections are, because this now is, this has gone and defeated the purpose. I already had some of that information. Let's do this. The value from M3, otherwise show nothing. Okay, fixed it, restored. Now I have the blocks, and I have the blocks that divide Okay, let's go and take these equations all the way through spreadsheet and look for those special cases. So the special cases are the ones where we had the placeholders. The placeholders are obviously reporting errors here because they don't know what to do. But we're not considering the case of the nesting. We're only considering these cases. So in this case, we're not evaluating this if statement. We don't care about it. And then as for the stuff that comes after that, that's being evaluated on its own merit. So, technique is doing a good job at isolating just the consecutive if-else closing